Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to Valorant News, a major update today on the entire Challengers format for the 2023 season being revealed, when the qualifiers are, what it means for the entire season and who might well qualify for Ascension, but many problems already associated with this as we shall dive into over the coming minutes. Very much into your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Few big updates to bring you guys. First of all, this Valorant is now officially, we believe, approved in China. This has been kind of talked about a lot over just the last few hours, that it seems to have finally kind of gone through the licensing process. I don't really know why things take so long, but you know, maybe for various reasons, as I'm sure we can imagine. So Valorant is now officially approved to be played over there. I'm sure they've got some sort of different version of it or whatever, but I think it was spotted here on Weibo that you know, it was officially announced just a couple of hours ago now that Valorant is there. It's got a new kind of Chinese name, but nonetheless, this is now officially a thing. So Edward Gaming, right, the Chinese team that's done rather well, they have been playing it the last couple of years or so, really, like on an unofficial version, or they've been playing on VPNs or whatever the situation is to get around the issues internally within China. Now it's going to be kind of open to all, and this, you know, obviously is a pretty scary thing maybe for the rest of the esports world, but it also means what exactly is going to happen here with the Asia Pacific region, because China before was getting a couple of invites, right? They got a couple of spots last season towards the end of the year, but now that it's officially allowed, then we're going to get probably an entire Chinese circuit the Riot are going to have to deliver upon. But then what does that mean for the franchise league? Because the Asia Pacific region has just been determined with their teams. You know, there's no Chinese team in there, I believe, as it stands. So what are they going to do if the Chinese teams get very good very fast, as they may well do? Now, potentially, of course, these teams could get through by the Ascension side, but yeah, I just wonder exactly what Riot's plan is here in terms of what they're going to do for the support of the tier 2 scene in China, but also the tier 1 scene, and how they might well allow teams that become very good out of China, as you'd expect them to, based on this announcement over the coming couple of years, to get into the Asia Pacific, you know, partnership league, because there's 10 teams in there right now that are not Chinese teams. So maybe, like, let's say a Chinese team wins Ascension for the Asia Pacific side, qualifies through, they might just choose that team to be a new partner team and drop another one when the time comes. So we'll see what happens there over the future. Quick update as well here on Sassy, stating that you know, he's made it to Mexico, I think, and he's now traveling over to Los Angeles, long journey, but yeah, basically landed in Mexico and now going to Los Angeles, long journey, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, there we go. Sassy, he's on the way out there. The visa stuff is sorted, going out there to LA with the Sentinels guys to get ready for the new year, and even just to discuss FNS and Marved once again at it on the timeline. So I wouldn't be ruling out Marved NRG as a possibility this season. Now let's talk about tier 2, because this has been, to me, one of the most exciting things over the last several weeks. Finally, we have the announcement. Now, we heard the date, the January the 9th, which is still going to be the case, but the official format has now been confirmed, and here it is. So they don't actually say much here on the website, but if you guys are aware of this, we've been discussing it the last few weeks. There are the qualifiers, firstly January 9th through to the 13th, on which date, on the 13th, 4 teams will be confirmed through to Challengers, and then the next weekend, January 17th through to the 22nd, then 2 more teams will be determined. So that's because 6 teams are being invited automatically. Now, we don't know who those 6 teams are. We can probably guess, for good reason, it's going to be G2, maybe, right, depending on their thoughts on G2. It's going to be the Guard, it's going to be FaZe, probably. More than likely, the teams with the most pro points from last season will be the ones that make it, but you know, there are going to be some invites given to these teams. Not every team has to qualify, but as it stands, we don't know what teams they're going to be. It hasn't been confirmed as of yet. So 6 spots are open through the qualifiers, and I think one of the big talking points is that these qualifiers are incredibly important for the entire season. If you fail to get through these qualifiers, your season is done. There's no second chances, which is not the case, I believe, in other regions, but is a seriously big deal here in North America, and I don't think for a good reason. So here we go, the open qualifiers, January the 9th through to the 13th. That's when a couple of teams will get through on the 12th and the 13th. Then there's 2 more teams that will qualify on these respective dates for the final spots in Challengers, which season begins earlier, and there's more going on than even on the professional side. So then a video comes out here from Knights, of course, who are running this tournament, explaining everything, and I mean, we can see here, like, this is the overall graphic, and I'll just run through the graphics here in a second and kind of explain exactly what's going on. So here we go. This is the overall format for the tier 2 scene in North America, starting with the qualifiers. So firstly, that open qualifier on the 9th through the 13th. 4 teams will qualify through that. The 2 teams that get through the winners bracket at the top, the 2 teams that get through the losers bracket, 4 teams will qualify in addition to 2, the 6 teams will be automatically invited, and then the LCQ finishing on the 22nd with 2 more teams qualifying. So 12 teams overall. Then they go straight away into the first challenger split. They get put into groups here. They play round robin within the groups. They get points based on their performances in the groups, and then they effectively get points towards the end of the season when some teams will qualify for the playoffs and some teams from the playoffs will qualify for Ascension, which is the big one, right? So one of these North American teams, or 2 of these North American teams, sorry, will qualify for Ascension, in addition to 2 teams from Brazil, 2 teams from Latin America North, and 2 teams from Latin America South. So you can very well argue that NA again is being, like, let's say underrepresented in Ascension, but nonetheless probably the team that's going to win Ascension, if it is going to be an NA team from the Americas region, is going to be one of the top 2 teams from the entire Challenger season. They're probably not too much of a big deal, but nonetheless important. So here we go, Challenger split number 1, then a mid-season invitational, which is pretty cool if you can win this invitational. Like, that's obviously nice to see because, you know, there's nothing else to really win in the season here for tier 2 outside of Ascension and the playoffs. So nice to have another event here. But you would expect potentially that the worst teams in split 1 would be up for relegation, and other teams that were potentially still grinding in the tier 3 scene could qualify through for tier 2. That's not going to be the case. So BCJ here kind of echoing what we know, that 6 teams are directly invited and 6 teams will qualify from the open qualifiers. So we don't know who those 6 teams that will be automatically invited shall be, but this is how the regular stage works here, with the teams seeded into 2 groups, Group A, Group B. Then after the first split and the mid-season invitational, these teams will be reseeded for the second side, but they will be the same 12 teams. And this is the key point that not that many people right now are talking about, that the 12 teams that qualify in January will be the 12 teams there for the entire season in North America. If you fail to qualify during this qualifier in literally a couple of weeks' time, your season is done. And this has been, I think, another problem really within the format, because this was the case last year. If you had a bad start to the season, if you failed to qualify, you know, GG's, chalk it up, we'll see you next year. Like, you've got no hope if you fail to qualify. If it gets to January the 22nd and your team hasn't qualified, there is basically nothing to do for the whole season. You can't even hope that after the mid-season invitational, there's going to be a relegation tournament in which the best tier 3 teams can get up to tier 2. That's not going to happen. So a bit of a disaster, to be honest, for a lot of these teams. I don't think it's a good idea. I think they might even be doing that in other regions, but not in North America. So these are the way the points work based on your placing in split 1. Then based on the top 4 teams from the mid-season event, they get some further points as well. Then split 2 is highly, it was slightly higher kind of weighted here because it's closer to the final standings. And then the top 8 of the 12 teams will qualify for the playoffs, in which case the top 2 teams from the playoffs will then qualify for Ascension. So this is the playoff bracket here with the 8 teams that will qualify from the regular stage. Then down to just 2 teams. There will be a winner, of course, but really the winner is the 2 teams that qualify for Ascension. Now, those only 2 teams from North America will join it. 2 teams from Latin America North, 2 teams from Latin America South, 2 teams from Brazil. So 8 teams in America's Ascension, of which one of those will win and qualify for the Partnership League in Tier 1 going forward. It's pretty exciting stuff, but I do think, again, this format does leave something to be desired. And as I said, one further question I have is which teams will be automatically invited. So there's a good chance that these will be the teams with the most points. That's what Tripsy kind of points out here and says that based on those points, more than likely the Guard, FaZe, SR, Shopify Rebellion, M80, the kind of former Ghost Corps, and TSM will get through. And then more than likely G2 will qualify as well, with 4 teams having, or 4 players having points, just not on the same team. So that's probably the early expectation. Which teams will be automatically invited is Guard, FaZe, SR, M80, TSM, and G2. If that's not the case, there'll be some surprises in there, but more than likely these teams, especially, you know, the Guard and FaZe and these guys, probably don't have to worry too much about qualifying for the Challenger sides. They should be automatically invited, but if any of these teams aren't, they've got to do it the hard way, which is where things get pretty spicy indeed. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on that in the comments section, right? Even as Dazzle says, going to be more entertaining than Partnership, which I honestly don't doubt. I think for the first couple of months of the season, this is going to be the most exciting thing in North American Valorant. There's no doubt, in my opinion. Vanity says, like, okay, tier 1, we've got TenZ, but they've got Steel, which is true, right? Steel is competing, I think, on Toast's esports team, whatever it's going to be called, in the tier 2 side. But this is the difficulty, right? If Toast Esports and others are signing their team, let's say they're signing Steel, etc., and let's say Steel's team doesn't qualify, let's say Disguised Toast team doesn't qualify for Challengers in after the 22nd of January, their season is done. So they're signing their players now. In 1 month time, like, their season is over. They've got nothing else to play for, potentially, if they don't qualify. Pretty big deal. Another Another point to mention here from Valin is that it's going to start out with the current format in terms of map sets. So Bind and Breeze still in the rotation for the first couple of weeks, then it gets replaced midway. Maybe understandable just because the split changes aren't here yet, and you know, so what's happening there is unknown, but still, Valin's not so happy that Bind and Breeze are going to stay the same as it stands, despite the fact that really changes are being made very soon, and therefore teams will have to adjust very quickly after the first step for the Challengers victory. And G2 dapr is going to try and do exactly that and win the whole thing, but will remain to be seen whether they can achieve exactly that. So definitely tweet your thoughts in the comment section below. That's all the details we currently have. I think it makes sense. I think it's really cool. I'm looking forward to tier 2 challenges, no doubt, but I do think there are quite a few things here that are desirable that yet again the format is not delivering. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.